Do your assets know where to go when you pass away? Do you ever want to avoid a lot of headaches for your loved ones when you pass away? How about if you were incapacitated? Who's going to make the financial decisions for you? Who's going to make those healthcare decisions for you? Folks, you're going to want to stay tuned because we're going to answer those questions today and more.
Retiring Well, helping you make smart decisions with your money so you can live a better life. Today is the day you can take back control of your money. Retiring Well, where we believe your best is yet to come.
Hi, welcome back to the show. Listen, today we're going to be talking about estate planning, and I'm joined here by Mike Swager with Swager, Bruce, and Millar.
Correct.
Right, local law firm here right in Traverse City, Michigan. Mike, let's get this started, but when it comes to estate planning 101, let's put it that way.
Sure.
What are some things that are necessities in that plan?
Estate planning, we talk about things such as wills, trusts, deeds, powers of attorney, healthcare powers of attorney, durable powers of attorney, documents that put your ducks in a row.
Okay. What are the things that I'm trying to accomplish with all those documents in an estate plan?
Number one, I think you want an effective process to transfer your assets from you to your loved ones or your beneficiaries once you pass away. Number two, I think you would like to do that in a cost-effective manner. We often hear about the trials and tribulations of probate court. Probate court often works well. It is a process. It's expensive. You get to pay lawyers like me to administer that. So if you can avoid that process and avoid paying lawyers, some people put a smile on their face when they hear that. That's something to do. Those are some ideas. You want to plan for events that may happen that you don't anticipate. Somebody becomes incapacitated. Maybe they have dementia, or they lose their consciousness in a traumatic accident and have a brain injury. Have we got documents in place so that we can continue effectively administering their life, such as with a healthcare directive or a durable power of attorney? So those are the sorts of things we look at. We look at tax issues, tax avoidance issues, administrating your assets when you pass away.
Okay, so let's talk about this probate thing. I gather, so we're trying to avoid probate. Give me a better picture of what probate looks like.
Sure.
You know?
When you pass away, you still own your property as a basic proposition in life. So let's take an easy example, your house. You own a house, if you own a house, and when you pass away, you still own that house. How do we now transfer that house from you to somebody else, either a third party or your children? With a will or no plan at all, we have to have a referee to administer that, and that's called the probate court. So if you still own assets after you've passed away, we need a process to transfer those assets from you to somebody else. That process is called probate, and that's where the probate court becomes involved. One of the things we look at is how can we avoid that process? And one of the measures we do to avoid probate is to create a trust for people. And with a trust, you legally transfer your ownership from you to this document called a trust. And we're going to illustrate that with some props in our next segment, I know. But we're going to show people how you are still able to live your normal daily life with no change in how you live your life. But when you pass away, your assets then are transferred to other people without the necessity of going through the probate court, without the necessity of paying lawyers to probate assets, and with freeing yourself from the fear of such things as, is Medicaid going to take my house? We plan for things like that so that you can rest easy in life knowing that you've got a plan, knowing you're going to avoid probate, knowing there's going to be an effective way to transfer your assets with the least costs, the least taxes possible, and the least headaches for your loved ones.
Now, Mike, I'll have people come in the office and I'll talk to them about estate plan and say, do you have an estate plan, right? And I'll have somebody come back and say, well, I've got a will. Yeah, I've had this will I've had for 10, 15 years. My understanding is that just a will in itself is not necessarily a good estate plan, right?
It's one of the ingredients. For some people, it may be totally fine. If it's 15 years old, it's probably worth somebody looking at it again to make sure it's up to date. Has there been situations that have changed in your life? Have laws changed? Do we need more documents than just a will, as we talked about? Right. Healthcare power of attorney, a durable power of attorney, a deed. Is there a way we can transfer assets from you to other people at your passing simply by a deed? Well, the answer is yes, depending on your situation in life. Is it time now to consider a trust? When you did the will, were you young, didn't have a whole lot of assets, and now you've gotten to a point in your life where, you know what, I've accumulated more assets. Perhaps I have an interest now in making sure I can protect those assets for my children, for example, in a way that their creditors aren't able to get at them, or their divorced ex-spouse can't get at their inheritance. Those are the types of things now people start looking at towards their retirement years, and as they accumulate wealth, that's where the world of trusts start to come into play in a real substantive manner.
All right, well, we're going to break here for a moment, but when we come back, we're going to dive into this a little bit more because I want to talk about more specifically about how these trusts and how they work and what they look like, okay?
Absolutely.
So please join us again.
NMC Extended Education is introducing an educational class titled Retirement Secrets, Your Best Is Yet to Come. Our very own Larry Flynn will be the presenter. If you are nearing retirement or already retired, then this class is for you. Many things can threaten your ability to outlive your assets and retire well. The three big things being healthcare, inflation, and taxes. Learn to navigate the critical issues that a retiree must deal with. You'll learn how to plan for a predictable and sustainable income, minimize taxes on your IRAs, maximize your Social Security benefits, and avoid estate planning mistakes. We'll also discuss long-term care concerns and what investments are appropriate in different situations. The cost is only $69. Materials will be provided, and a spouse or guest may attend for free. The class will be held on 2 Wednesday evenings at 6 p.m. for 3 hours, February 13th and 20th at the NMC Great Lakes campus. Reserve your seats today by calling NMC at 231-995-1700. The class is called Retirement Secrets. Again, that number is 231-995-1700. Retiring Well is now also airing on radio, bringing you insights from Northern Michigan's financial advisors specializing in retirement planning. Every Sunday at noon on WTCM AM 580. Don't miss Retiring Well Radio, every Sunday at noon on WTCM AM 580.
Do you have a plan for how to generate income during retirement? Are you going to run out of money? In today's marketplace, retirees have concerns about the volatility of the market. People have concerns that the traditional balanced portfolio strategy that advisors used in the 80s and 90s isn't good enough in today's new normal economy. There are more secure options available for you today, and that's what we specialize in here at Centennial Wealth Advisory. If you don't yet have a plan or would like a second opinion on your retirement income plan, please call us today for a free, no obligation, complete retirement review.
Hi, welcome back to the show. Listen, I'm being joined here by Mike Swager with Swager, Bruce, and Millar. And Mike, and just for sake of the audience, if they wanted to get a hold of you and talk more about estate planning, how would they get a hold of you?
The best way is I'm in Traverse City, so our phone number is 947-6800. We are located right across from Apache Trout Grill. Easy to locate. We have a website, Swager, Bruce, and Millar, and those are the best ways to get a hold of them.
Okay, now we work closely enough with your firm. If the audience called you and they saw you on the TV show and knew you were associated with Centennial Wealth, they're going to get Gold Glove treatment, right?
You know it.
All right, all right. Well, last segment we were talking about estate planning, and probably one of what goes into a really good estate plan is avoiding probate, right?
Right.
And I understand if all they have is a will is really just the instruction manual to probate, right?
To the judge, correct.
Right.
A will tells the judge how to distribute the assets, and a lot of people think, I'll have a will, I'll avoid probate. A will guarantees probate. The only difference is with a will, you're telling the judge how to distribute your assets, and without a will, the judge is distributing the assets according to what the law is, right, whether you like that or not.
Right. Could it be best said that if a good estate plan is when the will never even sees the light of day, right? Because
Correct.
that means it never went through probate.
That's right.
All right.
That's what we're looking to do.
All right. Now I see you brought this nice little box here.
It's the holiday season. I wanted to bring some props.
Right, and I understand it's to illustrate how trust works.
It's exactly. So remember again, generally speaking, even though you can take them with you, your stuff, when you pass away, usually you still own your stuff when you pass away. And therefore, the probate judge is the one who takes your stuff, your property, your personal possessions, your house from you and distributes it to other people, either pursuant to the will or not a will. If we create a system so that you no longer legally own your possessions, and we put them in a trust, then when you pass away, you don't own anything. And now there's nothing to probate. We open up the trust. What is ever inside the trust, we distribute that based upon the written instructions of the trust. And so for the holiday season, Larry, I got you a trust.
Appreciate that.
Larry's trust, right? Shall we see what's in it?
Yes.
All right. So this is just the way to illustrate how the concept works. We've taken all of Larry's possessions and we put them in this trust. The instructions say that while Larry is alive and while his wife is alive, everything in there is for them. They can take stuff out, put stuff in, play with it, sell it. Nothing changes in their life. They simply no longer legally own it. So, for example, what did we put in Larry's trust? Well, we put in all of his investments, or maybe most of them. Bank accounts, stocks, bonds, maybe their retirement account. We talk about that individually on people. And lo and behold, there it is. We put Larry's investments inside the trust. What else did we put in his trust? Well, unbeknownst to some of your listeners, Larry's a pretty handy man. He's a painter. So we put Larry's LLC in the trust. It's still an LLC. It's still Larry's. Only now, when he passes away, since it's in the trust and it's not owned by him personally, it doesn't have to go through probate. It's still an LLC. We put all of Larry's personal possessions in the trust, including this fancy Swagger Bruce and Millard golf shirt, since he's such a
Which I wear all the time.
Exactly. We put that. And one of the most important things we're going to put in the trust for Larry is his beautiful home that he just built. So there is Larry's beautiful home, as properly illustrated by my daughter's beautiful Christmas house. Isn't that nice? That is now going into the trust. How do we legally put Larry's home into the trust like that? With a deed. The lawyer prepares a deed, transfers it into the trust. When the actual transfer occurs, that's a decision we talk to clients about. Do we put it in immediately? Do we put it in at some point later because we're concerned about Medicaid issues and we don't want Medicaid to take the house? We talk about those with clients. Everything is now in the trust. It's properly funded. Larry and his family and his wife still live their normal life, enjoying all their assets. Only now when he passes away, we don't have to go to probate court to distribute these assets. They're all in his trust. The successor trustee opens up the trust, reads the document, distributes the assets according to language in the trust, all done privately.
Mike, I couldn't have, that was awesome. and having that completely avoided probate because all my assets were in that trust.
As long as they're all in there, it avoids probate. And that's the job of the lawyer, I believe, to make sure that they're all in there.
All right, all right. Well, thank you. So I want you to stay tuned and join us because we're going to talk a little bit more about estate planning 101, as we call it. Thanks.
Retiring Well is now also airing on radio, bringing you insights from Northern Michigan's financial advisors specializing in retirement planning. Every Sunday at noon on WTCM AM 580. Don't miss Retiring Well Radio, every Sunday at noon on WTCM AM 580. NMC Extended Education is introducing an educational class titled Retirement Secrets, Your Best Is Yet to Come. Our very own Larry Flynn will be the presenter. If you are nearing retirement or already retired, then this class is for you. Many things can threaten your ability to outlive your assets and retire well. The three big things being healthcare, inflation, and taxes. Learn to navigate the critical issues that a retiree must deal with. You'll learn how to plan for a predictable and sustainable income, minimize taxes on your IRAs, maximize your Social Security benefits, and avoid estate planning mistakes. We'll also discuss long-term care concerns and what investments are appropriate in different situations. The cost is only $69. Materials will be provided, and a spouse or guest may attend for free. The class will be held on 2 Wednesday evenings at 6 p.m. for 3 hours, February 13th and 20th at the NMC Great Lakes campus. Reserve your seats today by calling NMC at 231-995-1700. The class is called Retirement Secrets. Again, that number is 231-995-1700.
Hi, it's Michael Reese here. I have in my hands a copy of our #1 best-selling book on Amazon in its category, Retiring Well, How to Enjoy Retirement in Any Economy. In this book, we cover the 4 big areas of retirement planning: income planning, investment planning, tax planning, and estate planning or legacy planning. It has everything you need to know about your retirement plan, and I want to get you a free copy. So how do you get a free copy? It's really easy. Just call the number on the screen. Come visit with us. Come on in for a free, no obligation financial planning review. And when you come in to get your planning reviewed, we'll give you a copy, your very own copy of this best-selling book, absolutely for free. Again, just call the number on the screen. I want you to get your free copy. I know that you're going to love it.
Welcome back. Again, today we're talking about estate planning. I'm joined here by Mike Swager of Swager, Bruce & Millar. All right, a local law firm here right in Traverse City, Michigan, right?
Exactly.
Mike, we talked in the first segment about, what goes into a good estate plan, really just trying to avoid probate, right?
Correct.
And then that second segment, we talked about trusts, right? How those work, and I appreciate you bringing that box in and kind of illustrating that for us. But what I want to talk about in this segment is, let's talk about those other documents that go into an estate plan, all right? We've talked about the trust, maybe a will, but I understand you talked in the first segment when somebody's incapacitated and they want somebody to make financial decisions for them, right?
Right.
Who's that going to be?
Right. Well, let's talk about that. The documents we're going to talk about now, frankly, are the most important documents for the viewer and the listener, because these are the documents that are going to come into play while you're still alive. One of them that most people probably hear about is the healthcare power of attorney, commonly referred to as the living will. In other words, I've become incapacitated, whether it's because of dementia, Alzheimer's, a traumatic accident, and I'm in a coma, and I can no longer effectively communicate to the doctor, who is therefore going to make the medical decisions on my behalf. That's what a power of attorney document is. It is a document that sets forth what my medical directives are. By the way, I've already made those decisions. I've already made the decision as to whether, for example, I want the plug pulled, right? I've made that decision, but now I've appointed somebody to make that decision for me and to communicate with the doctor, because I can no longer do that because I'm in a coma, for example. Spouses commonly pick their wife or their husband as their primary agent for that purpose. Then it's always a good idea to name a backup or two. That's what the healthcare power of a document is. It avoids the need to have to go to probate court to have a guardian appointed for me.
Now, when I go in the hospital, they're always trying to give us that 5 wishes document.
Correct. Yep.
Is that the same thing?
Very similar, very similar, exactly, yep, and that's good to have too. If you don't have a proper estate plan and you're at the hospital, fill out that 5 wishes by all means.
All right,
Absolutely.
gotcha. So if I'm incapacitated and I can't make my own health care decisions,
Right.
that's where a living will come into play,
Correct.
right? But there's also the situation where I'm incapacitated and I can't make financial decisions, right?
Well, right. I am incapacitated, but unfortunately life keeps going on. My mail keeps coming, I have to do my banking, I have to file my taxes. Maybe the reason I'm incapacitated is because I was hit by a drunk driver and I'm in a coma and somebody needs to sue on my behalf. So who's going to conduct my daily activities of financial living? That's the durable power of attorney.
Gotcha.
Oftentimes the same person is the agent. Maybe it's the spouse. Maybe it's not. Those are individual decisions we make when we talk to clients. But it's somebody who is there to continue my daily financial activities, talking to you, for example, about my investments, because I can no longer do it. And now we don't need, hopefully, to go to the probate court and have a conservator appointed for me. I've already put those 2 documents in place in the event something should happen to me that I'm unaware of.
Now, it's possible, is it not, that the person you might want to make the healthcare decision for you might be different than the person you might have do the financial, right?
Oh, absolutely. You don't want to just go by birth order, for example, of the children. Who's good in an emergency situation? This is a traumatic, emotional situation. Some people are better geared to handle that situation. Other people are better geared to handle numbers and finances and your money. So you really do need to put some thought about who am I going to put in these positions of authority on my behalf should something happen to me. That's a great.
All right. And then, Mike, I hear this term out there called ladybird deed. You know, we talk about this when we're talking about estate planning. Talk to me a little bit more about that.
A ladybird deed is one of the tools that sometimes we implement to assist clients in transferring assets at their death. Primarily, we're talking about residential property now, your home, your fishing cabin in the UP. A ladybird deed conceptually works like a life insurance policy. When you buy a life insurance policy, you name a beneficiary. You own the policy while you're alive. The moment you pass away, the beneficiary owns the money. With a ladybird deed, you name a beneficiary for your home, and then the home passes to them outside of probate.
All right, right. Mike, I want to thank you for joining me today. That was a lot of valuable information, I know, for our folks out there.
Yes.
Again, if they want to get a hold of you, the number's on the screen. But
okay. Right. We also have a website. We have a Facebook page. If you Google Swager, Bruce and Millar, you'll find it.
All right. Correct. All right. Thanks again. Thanks again.
You're welcome.
Your grandchildren are precious to you. They are your life. This is your time to have that special relationship. Taking care of yourself is taking care of them. Centennial Wealth Advisory is offering a free, no-obligation retirement review to make sure you don't run out of money during your retirement. Centennial Wealth Advisory. Your best is yet to come.
NMC Extended Education is introducing an educational class titled Retirement Secrets, Your Best is Yet to Come. Our very own Larry Flynn will be the presenter. If you are nearing retirement or already retired, then this class is for you. Many things can threaten your ability to outlive your assets and retire well. The three big things being healthcare, inflation, and taxes. Learn to navigate the critical issues that a retiree must deal with. You'll learn how to plan for a predictable and sustainable income, minimize taxes on your IRAs, maximize your Social Security benefits, and avoid estate planning mistakes. We'll also discuss long-term care concerns and what investments are appropriate in different situations. The cost is only $69. Materials will be provided, and a spouse or guest may attend for free. The class will be held on 2 Wednesday evenings at 6 p.m. for 3 hours, February 13th and 20th at the NMC Great Lakes campus. Reserve your seats today by calling NMC at 231-995-1700. The class is called Retirement Secrets. Again, that number is 231-995-1700. Retiring Well is now also airing on radio, bringing you insights from Northern Michigan's financial advisors specializing in retirement planning. Every Sunday at noon on WTCM AM 580. Don't miss Retiring Well Radio, every Sunday at noon on WTCM AM 580.
Welcome back to Retiring Well. John Torbett and Art Canfield, financial advisors and senior partners with Centennial Wealth Advisory. And we've been talking about ultimately estate planning and getting into that. But Art, let's take a twist here and talk about maybe what I like to call beneficiary blunders, where, okay, here's some of the mistakes that we've seen made and where you don't want to get caught making those same mistakes. So Art, you had a story with a client that was going through this process, and it sounded just horrible.
I still feel bad for this client. Ended up working out okay, but they were an executor of their sister's estate. Okay. The sister had no surviving children. They weren't married, so the brother was effectively receiving the assets and handling the estate. Okay. And there, unfortunately, over time, there was very little to no planning that was ever happened. Luckily, most of the financial accounts had beneficiaries listed on them, but there were scattered, talk about, I don't know the exact number, but there was 30, 40 different smaller accounts scattered over between banks and insurance companies, investment companies. And this individual, the brother, just didn't even know where to start, in a lot of cases.
And that's just the worst to see. I mean, sometimes where people may not do the best at planning or laying things out. So if you can make it easy on those that you're leaving assets to, have a detailed list and ultimately show them where those assets are. But he basically was winging it, it sounds like.
Okay. What was happening, so he come to us and said, I think she has these assets, but I don't even know where to begin. So it worked out, and we started going through account by account, doing some paperwork, kind of doing some more discovery, and it seemed like once a week he would bring a new stack of paperwork in that he would come across or find, and just started working through it together. All in all, it ended up being okay, but just the sheer amount of time and really stress that it put them through was just uncalled for. With a simple, even in this case, a simple conversation that those two could have had ahead of time to just give them, I guess, direction.
Sure, yeah, and that's the big thing, I think, is just being open and communicating on that, especially if you know, okay, here's who this money's going to be left behind to, and if you can just communicate that and clearly lay it out, that makes all the difference in the world. Yeah. So,
I mean, don't you think no one really wants to talk about dying, right? I mean, it's not a fun thing to do, whether it's with your kids or family members, but at some time we have to have that conversation of, okay, when I go, here's the places to look, or here's the things to do, or here's who to talk to. It just makes the survivors' life so much easier.
Right, and that's the client that I was working with recently, where they were mom, primary asset was her home, and so didn't have significant assets outside of that. Those were all able to be settled pretty easily, but in her case, most of it was in the house and lived downstate in the Detroit area, but never really went through the process to get any type of will, trust, any type of designation set up on that. And so here was this home just sort of left to her estate. And so the client was making trips back and forth downstate, trying to deal with the probate court process, which to my understanding is a little bit more challenging downstate versus northern Michigan. But so this dragged out for about 2 years. And if you can imagine, had to get an attorney involved, and attorneys, at least the attorneys we work with will tell you, we'd rather help you now take care of things, and it's a lot less expensive to do the planning ahead of time versus paying them hourly to help with this process. And so he was paying a significant amount of cost just to help get this property retitled into his name. And finally, I think by the time all was said and done, it took, I thought, over 2 years for that process to be handled, and the costs involved were hardly worth it when all's said and done. So,
and that's where I think of, like, when you're planning for your own estate, like just the importance of communication and doing some planning ahead of time can just save. I mean, that simple case there, maybe a couple hour discussion with an attorney would have saved hundreds of not hundreds of thousands, but probably thousands of dollars in the time of that individual. Now, at the end of the day, was there a big loss? Not necessarily. He still got the home and stuff like that, but there was unnecessary expenses.
Right, exactly. And so, yeah, so if you're in a situation where you haven't gone through that planning process, or you're not sure sort of where things sit within your retirement plan, you're welcome to give us a call. We'd be happy to sit down and review that with you. And if we're not the ones that can help you, we can refer you over to an estate planning attorney to help with your retirement planning needs. So thanks again for tuning in to Retiring Well.